Okay, so we are back with Cruise Bogle, right?
Bogle, yeah.
And we are talking about some just adaptive things that his dad has created to make his life easier. And there was one more thing you were going to tell us about. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, definitely. So it's a very clever and helpful contraption my dad rigged up. Like I was saying before, it has a solenoid rig to it. It clips on to like the bottom of my leg bag, and then attaches Bluetooth to an app on my phone. So it gives me the ability to, if I'm home alone, or whatever the case may be, it gives me the ability to empty my leg bag by myself using this app. I just kind of flip my arm into my lap, uh, fiddle with the app, hit a button on the app, and it will activate this solenoid, which then opens my leg bag and allows my leg bag to drain out, whether I'm in the grass or over a bucket or something like that. So it's pretty sweet if I'm, home all day by myself, and uh, my bag, if my bag were full, it would just pop on its own, or there'd be a leak or a mess. But this allows me to be able to empty it on my own and be kind of a little that much more independent.
And it can back up into your bladder and not be so great too, right?
Not great at all.
So what the heck is a solenoid? I don't know what that is.
So I don't know the true definition. It's kind of like a valve, I guess you could say.
Oh, okay.
That has the ability to be activated and closed, or activated and then opened.
Sounds like a Shark Tank idea. I mean, I know the
Yeah.
recipients wouldn't be huge, but that sounds really cool. Adam, you could use that. Yeah.
Yeah, almost every day.
Yeah.
Every day, yeah. And how long you can be left alone is usually comes down to peeing and drinking water.
Yeah, exactly. That was the biggest thing that was holding me back, was needing, my bag emptied every couple of hours. So really needed somebody there in close proximity to be able to do that for me. But yeah, this allows me to kind of get at least a few more hours by myself.
Wow. I wonder if your dad would be willing to be interviewed at some point and explain to people like Adam that don't have that how it's done, so that he
Yeah.
could join in. Or if it's an app, you could just share it, and then as long as we get the valve, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm sure there's a little bit that my dad could break down. People have told him I think his entire life that, like, man, if you would just like patent and copyright and create these ideas that you have, you'd be a millionaire by now. But that's just not how his mind works. But yeah, I'm sure he'd be up for at least doing an interview and kind of breaking it down, and maybe supplying some links for where the pieces could be bought and put together.
That would be so cool. Don't you think, Adam? Okay, well, maybe we'll do that later. All right, so the other question I wanted to ask you is in relation to one of the biggest things that we're trying to do with Mods for Quads is get people on a schedule where we're training you to use your neurons for movement in small chunks, so that every day, if we make efforts to grow our neurons, the idea is that we practiced that 15-20 minutes that day, and we could have stronger trunk strength or a little more movement in our arm or a leg or whatever. So I just wanted to ask you about what your experience has been with movement, and when you said you were working out, the gains maybe that you felt, maybe why. I know a lot of people also kind of quit and don't think that maybe it's worth the payoff. And so where you're at with that, kind of tell us that journey.
Yeah, I'm kind of right in the middle of both of the aspects you just mentioned. I used to, for about 11 years, I went to therapy, physical therapy, like 3 to 5 days a week. And it's a very slow process. When I first started, I had little bit, trace biceps and triceps. Couldn't like lift my arm at all. My shoulders were still pretty strong at fairly early on in the injury. But yeah, it's just a slow journey. It can be exciting when you do get a little bit of strength back, but it can also be discouraging if you kind of look at the long term of how long you've been doing it, how much money you've spent to go to these facilities and really not get a ton of movement back. It's all really just personal preference. If you have the money like that, if you just want to keep going and going and see what you can get back, obviously that's amazing. But yeah, I've been able to get a little bit of core movement, and I can like lift my arm a little bit. I don't have any wrist or finger movement still, but I can flip my arm into my lap, or if it falls out of my armrest, I can get it back in the armrest. But yeah, it's at this point, I am not putting as much emphasis on rehab as I used to. I'm trying to focus more on like being able to be self-sustaining financially, and like we kind of talked about before, having my own house and being able to live and thrive on my own. So financially is the main part that doesn't allow me to do both at the moment. I'd love to get back to some sort of workout routine and facility in the future, but it's just not a huge priority for me right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So are you earning most of your money via your artwork and stuff, or what all do you do for financial?
So my cousin, right after my accident, my cousin, who I mentioned before, is one of my biggest advocates. She started a fundraising event called Cruiser Palooza. And right off the bat, started in her front yard. I think we had 300 people come out, and we raised about $40,000 in one night.
Wow.
And so that turned into an annual event, and we've had, I believe, 12 now, and it grew to the last one in 2019 before COVID. We had almost 1,500 people come out. We were at the largest outdoor venue in Delray Beach, where I live, and we raised over $100,000. And we were able to, that was the first year I was able to, we made enough where I could donate back. So I donated like 15%, I believe, to the Christopher and Dana Reeves Foundation. But yeah, so things like that, the community has been really the biggest support financially, and where I make, I don't know, I don't like to call it income, but financial support. I've just recently in the past 2 years been able to make a little bit of money off of my art, but also because of benefits and insurance and stuff, you can only make a certain amount. So there's a couple of gray areas of, how I've made that money and where exactly that money went, to be kind of off the grid,
Yeah, that just seems like a whole nother big red wrong thing going on. You know what I mean? I don't even get it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, when you were working out, I wanted to just ask you, because some of the work that Adam and I have studied with neuroplasticity, it has a lot to do with, including your head in the workout. Like, even for me, when I go work out, I have to make mental effort to participate in thinking about what I'm doing. And I do a lot of yoga, which is kind of really helpful because you're really focused on your action. But I'm just curious if when you did your PT and your weightlifting and all of that, how much you used visualization and really engaged your brain into like looking at the muscle and connecting, hello, brain's connecting, touching,
Right.
That kind of thing. Or if you were even taught any of that and was kind of like, here, sit down and just move and watch the TV at the same time,
Yeah. So I think early on when I was doing more specifically physical therapy and occupational therapy, they were a bit more like focus on the muscle, think about it while you're doing it. But the gym that I went to for the majority of the time, like 10 years or so, they were exercise science majors. They were not actual physical therapists and occupational therapists.
Mhm.
So it was a little more, I think when I started there, it was about the same, but just kind of as the routine day after day, I just kind of got a little lazy. And I think the employees there did too, to, so it wasn't quite as engaged. It was more of just the go through the motions. All right, how many reps? All right, let's do it.
Mhm.
So yeah, probably didn't focus on that as much as I should have. Uh, obviously it's still good for the blood flow and the muscles and whatnot, but of course not as beneficial when you're actually trying to reconnect, neurons and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you did focus quite heavily on it with the physical therapist and occupational therapist, and obviously got like that arm movement back and all of that, um, I assume that that's made a significant impact. Like you kept your gains, you didn't lose them again, right?
Correct.
And that was all based on your doing, right? Like you wouldn't be able to do this had you not. How hard did you have to work to be able to do that?
I mean, I would attribute it, the strength that it's at now, I would attribute it to 10 years of working out and
Yeah.
physical therapy ish exercises. Yeah.
And if you hadn't have done any of that, do you think you'd be able to move it at all? I mean,
I would
say,
have to assume no, because
mhm,
if I had just not done anything after my accident, I had a little bit of shoulder movement and that was pretty much it. So I'd have to imagine if I didn't work on it at all, then yeah, I probably wouldn't have any of it, I guess.
yeah, I'm just trying to, I mean, I'm not in either of your positions. And so I'm just trying to wrap my brain around like, do you feel like everybody's injury is different, everybody's brain's different, everybody's recovery is different, which is kind of hard to, you know, it's just so varied. But with gaining that movement back, um, do you feel like you kind of have in your brain, I think that's all I got, or it's just not a focus, but I know I could get more later if I wanted to?
So it's a good and tough question. I would say kind of the mindset I'm in now is like, if I, worked another 10 years doing something similar like I did for the past 10 years, I believe I would probably get a bit more strength. I don't know. I don't really believe that I would be able to take significant steps back to like walking or necessarily being able to like, pick things up and have wrist and finger dexterity and whatnot. I think I would just, maybe have a little more muscle tone and just be a little stronger in general with what I do have. I think something that's really going to actually make a huge difference in the future is going to be like a scientific or technological breakthrough as opposed to just years and years of physical therapy type stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where my mind's at right now.
Yeah, Adam and I were reading an article from CNN yesterday. What was it, Adam? Putting some sort of electrode stimulation on your spinal column and having movement gain. And you were questioning it. Do you want to comment on that at all?
Oh, well, I wasn't questioning the the study or the application so much as I was commenting on how the writing was, because the journalistic approach, so a lot of people that cover spinal cord injury related things don't have a lot of points of reference and a lot of background, and they use terms like complete and incomplete, and they were talking about how much sensation they had versus how much function they had, and it made it a little bit hard to tell what they were actually saying about whether people actually complete or not.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's what I was commenting on there. But
Yeah.
it seems really promising. It just seemed a little confusing the way they had written it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that I think most journalists and people who write the articles like that, it's because of their lack of knowledge or experience in the space. they tend to lean towards making it seem like a bigger breakthrough than it may be, because they don't quite understand that every injury is different, every recovery is different. So whether it's stem cells or an electrode, oh my god, a complete quadriplegic is now walking from this electrode. But like you said, was he actually, how complete was he? Completely different situation, so it doesn't translate to other people's injuries per se.
Right. Adam, do you want to talk a little bit about your movement gains, or how you feel neuroplasticity affects your overall, and what you keep and what you lose? And
Sure. I also, one thing that I should have asked Cruz that I didn't when I talked to him before, or once I do before Cruz, is there anywhere around that you can get in the water, where the water's warm enough that you don't spasm and that you can kind of loosen everything up?
Yeah, so at my parents' house, we have a pool there that I've gotten in a handful of times. There's also one or two fairly local like aquatherapy places that I went to a couple of times early on. And then just the ocean in general is fairly warm, year round. So I've gotten in the ocean a couple of times as well. But kind of the same thing for me. It's like the time and trouble that it takes getting into the pool and whatnot, I don't find the benefit to be kind of worth it for me to go through that. So I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, I was 6 years out when I finally got in the water. 6 years, and but it was in conjunction with that neurofunctional training study that Susan and I were both a part of. And what I did like about it is that we're under gravity, of course, all the time, and when we get in the water, there's the 90% reduction in gravity. So I would start finding little muscles, or through different movements that I was trying to do in the water, be able to use certain things that I couldn't use under gravity. And I do think it's a really awesome medium to discover those things that are emergent, or right on the threshold of coming through, and
Right.
with the, and being a quad, just kind of being more stretched out, and just not being sitting or laying down, and feeling your whole body, kind of in terms of
vertical.
yeah, just having your body occupy space in that way, instead of always being kind of stuck, is really cool. But yeah, I don't know. So I know that's why we're touching on that, because it is, it takes so much technology to substitute for water when it comes to eliminating gravity.
All right. Yeah, the couple of things I do remember from, it's been a couple of years, honestly, since I've been in the water. But just, the lack of pressure, and just being able to kind of float there. And it's definitely nice. But as far as the rehab aspect of it, at least when I was in the water, I didn't really do much rehab, techniques or exercises or anything. So it was cool, and I enjoyed it. But like I said, just not quite worth the trouble for me personally.
Got it.
Yeah, and you're making huge strides with the things that you are focused on, and that's really cool to see.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Focus on the strengths, right?
Yeah, this event that you have, that you've been doing every year, what do you focus on? Do you have food, or you show your artwork? Is it what does everyone gather to do?
A little bit of all of it. It's really just a big kind of party, I guess, is the best way to put it. We have a couple of local bands that play. A bunch of food usually gets donated. In the past, moving forward, I don't think we're going to do as much, but in the past, we've had all the local businesses. We've had like over 100 silent auction items, like 5 or 6 large live auction items. Yeah, so it's really just like the community. It's pretty much all of Delray and a couple of the surrounding cities of friends and family who just come out and have a good time.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Have you been able to travel at all? Like get on a plane and go somewhere or something?
Yes, I've traveled a few times. I went to Canada once or twice. That's where my mom's side of the family is from. My sister still lives up in Maine, so I've gone there a couple of times. And some friends of mine lived in Virginia, so I traveled there. And I think that's the extent of it. Unfortunately, one time when I traveled, I did go to Pennsylvania once to actually speak to Villanova, University of Villanova. And on the trip up there, the airline broke my chair. So I got there and my foot pedals were all jacked up, and my tilt feature didn't work, and my chair, the axis was kind of messed up. So that was unfortunate. And luckily my chair wasn't like completely totaled where I couldn't even sit in it. It was pretty close, but yeah, it would have been screwed if it was any worse.
Did they compensate you for that?
They did actually pretty quickly. Luckily, they got me a new chair. I think I had a new chair within a couple of weeks once I returned. But yeah, it was just American Airlines, and I think they were that specific year, which was 2018, I believe. They had over 1,500 incidences of breaking or damaging wheelchairs and walkers and assistive devices like that. So, as I'm sure you're both aware of, flying and traveling is a huge task, for people with disabilities. And when you can't even rely on, your quote unquote legs to be there when you need them after the flight, it's kind of a scary thing. Like, do I even want to try and travel? Like, what if they break my chair again and I'm stranded and have to lie on a bench for a day or hours? It's something that I think they're working on, but just unfortunately not quite fast enough.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they usher along the removable seats in the plane so that we can just drive our chairs onto the plane.
It seems like such a simple idea, and would, like, my dad could do that in a weekend.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. We make all of these concessions for 64 different types of genders, and we're trying to make everything equal across the world these days. And it seems like a population that is I don't know if it's too little to get too much attention, but there's so many things that need to be improved, from nursing care to just public access, financially, all of it.
Yeah.
So, I think it's good to just have open forum and try to get the word out. One more thing I wanted to ask you is, I know in some other videos we'd recently talked about, kind of coming to terms mentally and soulfully with what's happened and kind of getting your whole person back from a, soulful point. And I guess just overall, like with all of your experience between your accident and your recovery, the whole person mentally, physically, spiritually, do you have one particular aha thing that really sticks out for you that if you were to share with people that, that you feel like it's made one of the bigger impacts for you, any kind of realization or thing that you've learned that's a tool?
It's tough to boil it down into one thing, I would say, because there's so many different aspects and avenues that play into just about everything when you have a disability like this. But the biggest thing for me was, I think we kind of touched on it when we were speaking before, was kind of just like the mental health aspect of it. And like, I'm lucky enough to have the support of family and friends to even though I may feel that I'm being a burden on them, sometimes they're still there and they may not consider me a burden. But to have the mental awareness to understand that you're not a burden, and to still take care of yourself, to not be a people pleaser. Like you need to prioritize your own physical and mental health, regardless of if you're relying on these other people or not. Because for a long time, I was not who I thought I was. I was just trying to be who I thought everyone around me needed me to be, which was turned out to be very detrimental once I kind of took a step back and realized that. So I would just say prioritize your own physical and mental health, and be appreciative for everybody who's helping you out day in and day out, but don't be afraid to put yourself first.
That's very good advice. For
That's
sure.
good advice, and it's really wise. It's hard to come to that place.
Yeah, it's a very new realization for me. So I'm kind of fresh in the mind with that. So that was a good question. I'm glad I could provide that response too.
Would you be interested at all in helping Mods for Quads, like be a coach or mentor to other people?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, that'd be awesome. Well, I'm so excited to have met you and know about your artwork. It's super cool. I looked at it this morning. Would love to put some of that up on our site. Adam,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's super cool. Adam, do you have any other questions that you want to ask?
Cruz, do you mind describing what's going on with the spray paint mask? How it works?
Yeah. So again, my dad, being the handyman that he is, was able to rig together this gas mask. I have a friend who is an artist and she uses spray paint in her art. So that kind of is where the idea came from. I was trying to think of how I could kind of chase these other artistic mediums, and was trying to figure out how I could use spray paint. So the leg bag opener that my dad had rigged up kind of popped into my head, and I was like, I think I posed the idea to him, could we use something similar like that to make a spray painting contraption work? And he kind of sat with that for a couple of days. And yeah, so essentially it's just a regular gas mask, any gas mask that you could order off of Amazon, I think is where I got it. And it's this solenoid piece that is mounted to the front of the gas mask that has a spray paint can holder, I guess you would say, mounted to the bottom of it. There's a wire that goes from the solenoid to a button that goes behind my shoulder. Then there's a wire that goes from that button to the battery on my chair, just like a cigarette lighter, phone charger type thing that my dad rigged up down there. And so it draws its power from my chair. And yeah, put the mask on, hit the button with my shoulder. It activates this solenoid valve piece that then pushes down on the top of the spray paint can, and yeah, activates that and get paint all over myself.
It's so great. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, it really is. It's quite heavy on the face, unfortunately, but other than that, it's definitely fun to mess around with, man. I'm excited to see how I can incorporate that into some art moving forward.
Very cool. Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
it's exciting in general to see what you have going on and what the future holds for you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it.
I love the creativity, like Tony Robbins always says, if we're not without creativity, we kind of die. So just
creativity breeds more creativity as well. So
yeah,
keep on going after it, and more ideas and imagination get flowing, and collaboration and networking, and it all kind of plays in together into creating in general.
Yeah, well, you're very much an inspiration. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
No problem. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing what Mods for Quads can build, and hopefully kind of the social network and website and all of the encompassing areas come to fruition. I'm excited to hopefully be a part of it and watch it grow.
Yeah. When are you planning your next event?
So as of now, I believe we're going for April 16th at a little bit smaller venue because of all the, kind of the COVID stuff still going on. So there's a small possibility we may postpone it again until later in the year. But as of now, we're tentatively hoping to do it on April 16th.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, keep us posted.
All right.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap it up, guys, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank both of you very much.
Yeah, great to talk to you, Chris.
You as well, Adam.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Have a good one.